Today, we're diving into the absolutely critical story of Pakistan's medicinal plants. It's an incredible story of natural wonder and an urgent race against time to save it.
So let me just start with this question. What if the cure for the next big pandemic was locked away inside a plant? And that plant was on the verge of disappearing forever. Sounds like the plot of a movie, right? Well, it's not. This is the very real situation playing out right now in one of the world's most vital natural pharmacies. And the stakes? They couldn't be higher.
So before we can really dig into the problem, we first have to get our heads around what we actually stand to lose. And all of that starts with one key idea: biodiversity.
Forget the dry textbook definition for a second. Think of biodiversity as nature's ultimate problem-solving toolkit. It's the result of millions and millions of years of trial and error, creating this vast, living library of solutions. You know, it's not just about counting pretty flowers or cool animals. It's about the entire intricate web of life that actually supports all of us.
Okay, so why does it matter so much? Well, it really boils down to three big reasons. First, there's what you could call its utilitarian value. I mean, these plants are literally the foundation for everything from ancient traditional remedies to cutting-edge modern medicines. Second, its ecological value. A diverse ecosystem is a strong ecosystem. It's way more resilient and can bounce back from shocks like climate change. And finally, and this is so important, its cultural value. This knowledge is woven right into the identity and history of local communities.
All right, now let's zoom in. Let's focus on Pakistan, a place that holds a truly staggering amount of this botanical treasure. The sheer density of life here, it's honestly hard to wrap your head around.
And I want to show you what this really means with some hard numbers. Take a look at this. In just one single area, Upper District Dire, a single study found 79 distinct species of medicinal plants. 79!
Okay, now let's hop over to another region, Sudnadati in Azad Kashmir. Here, researchers documented 150 locally important plants. That number just keeps going up.
And get this isn't just happening in lush green forests. Even in the Thorparker Desert, a place you might think is barren, scientists recorded over 149 plant species, and some of those are considered threatened on a global scale. This place is, without a doubt, a major biodiversity hotspot.
So what kind of plants are we even talking about here? Well, this chart shows something really fascinating. The vast majority, look at that, over 73% are herbs. These small, often overlooked plants are the absolute backbone of this incredible living pharmacy.
But, and this is a big but, this priceless natural heritage is in very serious trouble. The story shifts here, from celebrating this incredible richness to an urgent race against extinction.
The threats are coming from all sides, and let's be honest, they're pretty much all driven by us. We're talking about overgrazing by livestock, farming practices that just aren't sustainable, and the overharvesting of plants that have commercial value. It's all putting this immense pressure on these really delicate ecosystems.
But one of the biggest dangers is something called habitat fragmentation. As our activities carve up the landscape, these plant populations get broken up into tiny, isolated islands. And as the research makes crystal clear, that isolation makes them incredibly vulnerable to just winking out of existence.
And if you want a really specific kind of terrifying example, look at this. For this one endangered plant, Razzia stricta, scientists found that its populations have been crushed. They've dwindled down to fewer than 100 individual plants each. I mean, that is dangerously close to the edge.
And trust me, this is not an isolated case. This table, which comes from just one study in northern Pakistan, is a really sobering scorecard. We're looking at dozens and dozens of species already classified as vulnerable, rare, or straight-up endangered. The trend is obvious and it's deeply, deeply worrying.
But it's not all doom and gloom. The story doesn't just end with the threats. It pivots to the solutions. Scientists, communities, they are fighting back, and they're using smart, targeted strategies to protect this green heritage.
And the approach is basically two-pronged. First, you have what's called in-situ conservation. All that means is protecting the plants right where they grow, in their natural homes. Then you have ex-situ conservation, which is like a crucial backup plan, preserving them outside of that natural habitat. Let's see how this actually works.
And this right here, this graph brilliantly shows the power of that first approach, in-situ conservation. Just look at this data. In areas that weren't protected, medicinal plants made up a tiny 2% of all the plant cover. But inside the protected areas, a staggering 97.83%. The conclusion is simple. Protection works. It really, really works.
No, these protected closures are just one piece of the puzzle. Success also comes from really engaging with the community. Projects that empower local people with sustainable ways to harvest plants. And it also comes from these amazing specialized stations dedicated to restoring entire ecosystems like the one in the Thar Desert.
Okay, now here's a really crucial scientific point. When researchers looked at the genetics of these endangered plants, they found something fascinating. A whopping 83% of the total genetic diversity exists within each individual population. So what does that mean? It means we can't just save one group of plants in one forest. To preserve the full genetic library of that species, we have to protect many different populations in many different places.
And what about that backup plan we mentioned? Well, that's where ex-situ conservation comes in. This involves carefully collecting seeds and genetic material and storing them in super secure banks. It also means keeping living libraries of these plants in botanical gardens, where they can be studied and propagated.
So let's pull back and look at the big picture again. This is so much more than just a local environmental issue in one part of the world. This is a fight to protect a resource that holds potential benefits for all of us, for all of humanity.
So here's the main takeaway. The threats are severe, they're real, but they are not insurmountable. The data shows us very clearly that when you use a smart, integrated approach, one that combines cutting-edge science with the traditional, on-the-ground knowledge of local communities, it is incredibly effective. There is a hopeful path forward.
And that really just leaves us with a final thought to chew on. This incredible botanical library doesn't just belong to one region. It's a global trust. It holds potential solutions for generations to come. So the question we all have to ask ourselves is this: together, are we doing enough to protect it?